Ah, what a nice day. The sun is shining and the birds are singing. I sure hope nothing bad happened.
The gacha are taking over! It's dying! Get help! Oh my gosh, guys! This is insane! The city's over! Help!
The gacha community dying subject has been a popular one throughout the last few years, and I'd be lying to say that I hadn't been getting on my nerves due to the amount of not only false information, but hypocrisy around the situation. Why? Well, the two main arguments for the gacha community's downfall was 1. The lingering presence of gacha, and 2. The overwhelming amounts of trends. But both of these arguments, one more than the other, are really weak in retrospect, and the fact that they've been overused to oblivion makes literally no sense to me. Why? Well, let's start with the first argument. Ah yes, the never-ending battle of gacha heat, from the dastardly thumbnails of Gamerization to the deep disturbance of Gelbug Studios. By far the number one thing that has given the gacha community its bad name. If you don't know what the gacha heat is, well, lucky you. Gacha heat is the codename people in the gacha community use as a cover for foolery. There isn't exactly a proper pinpoint of when gacha heat started, but the uprise I would probably say would be around like 2019 and proceeding 2020, which is around the time it was brought to the attention of the public, or, well, YouTube reaction channels. The community soon became seen to the public as a chaotic and weird community that was contrived of horny 13-year-olds and 20-year-old men. And that was made very, very clear by everyone. So much so to the point hackers, doxers, and, well, whatever the heck this thing is, started berating after them. But was the community really that bad? Well, if I could encompass the gacha community in 2019, I would say it was mostly wolf hybrids falling in love with each other, head bops, and 20-year-old men.
It's a weird recurring theme.
Yes, sure, all the gacha hybrid whatever videos had unbelievable bad writing and repetitiveness, but to its core, it wasn't bad or necessarily morally wrong. It was just cringe, but in a pure kind of way. But the thing is, the gacha, well, the app, is excessively easy to use, it being free and all, and the whole point is to make stories without having to draw, sort of like an electronic dollhouse in a sense. But if there's one thing TikTok has taught us, that the easier it is to use, the more people use it. And when more people use it, it's more likely weird people will enter it. But seriously, if you look at some of the most popular fandoms, a thing they mostly have in common is that it got popular. And I hate to say it, but by the rate of popularity gacha was getting, this seems sort of inevitable. Which, although I think its intentions are pure, hashtag save the gacha community will not work, or at least just saying it and making videos about it. Because, fun fact, just telling someone not to do something on the internet does not work.
So, well, of course this would be the downfall of the community. If they can't fix this, surely people would leave the community or would just become full of weirdos.
Actually, although cringe cops are still around, I'd say gacha heat has really gotten toned down from Spoctor's great work from banning this stuff on TikTok, and YouTube's been much more adamant about banning gacha heat, and overall it's just kind of been toned down. And a thing people need to realize is that just like the rise of gacha heat was inevitable, because as much as I hate to say it, gacha heat was a trend, and like all trends, it sort of just died. Because a thing that the gacha community may be surprised to hear about, but people don't care if they're getting negative attention. And God, I sound like one of those cyberbullying counselors, but all these people really want is attention. And I know this isn't really too much on the topic, but I see a lot of channels doing gacha heat reaction stuff for the sole reason to farm off views, and to be frank, is literally just a repost of the video, just smaller, and the creator's OC making angry expressions. And yet these don't get taken down for some reason! So yeah, I would say that gacha heat is really not killing the gacha community. Though I will sort of give it some credit for having a reason, and that there's probably a good chunk of people who left due to the hate of the gacha community around them, or they just didn't want to deal with this. Now here's where we get into the main dish of the video. Although gacha has been a big remark of why people think that the community is dying, by far the main argument has been trends being the downfall of the gacha community. Now, the argument for this is the uprise in trends has slowly been consuming the gacha community and has been stopping original content like the old Gacha Club mini-movies. But the funny thing is, these are the exact same people whose channels are dedicated to doing trend work. But as soon as they do a 1-minute music video, they are praised as if doing something revolutionary. Okay, listen. First of all, Gacha Club mini-movies definitely do still exist, as uninspired as they are, but still do pretty good. And okay, the argument that they don't get as much stuff as the trend stuff is understandable, but the people always making these remarks are the exact same people who do this trend stuff, and they always talk about how they miss the gacha community. And like, fair enough, I guess there is a point that the only way to get views or attention, or the fastest way, is to give in to the trends, and trends in of itself is not really, to its core, a bad thing. But I can understand the frustration, even if it's still sort of hypocritical. But I also feel really bad for the people still going at it with the original work, and I can't imagine how crappy it feels when the trend community talk about how there's none nowadays while you're working your butts off. I sure know how it feels, I'll tell you. And, you know, it's kind of like the equivalent of cleaning up a room and your mother barges in and starts complaining how dirty the house is. But the thing that gets on my nerves the most, by far, would be how the community acts like the old community was so much better and wish it was back the way it was. Yeah, remember how back then when you were at peak artistry if you can make a gacha character head bop? Remember when the literal same video was replicated but still got more views than the original? Remember when we tried to dox a 16-year-old over the sole fact that they could have traced a body base in a 30-second video? Yeah, I've been in the gacha community way before I started my channel, and the only thing that I would say changed for the worse was the uprise of gacha.
What about the unoriginal trends?
That's funny you ask, because that's literally hated child hybrid princess. Because yes, these are trends. The only thing that is different is that it's a 10-minute story rather than a 5-second video, which I guess is slightly better because it takes more effort, but still. The odd thing I did find though was this argument was used in the presence of Music Freaks along with tons of other voice acting series that were doing really well, so yeah, that backfired big time. At the end of the day, I mostly just want to call out the bullcrappery going around, which at times can be directed with malice at creators who actually make good content. Though, personally, I do agree that it is frustrating that people can pour hours into making something original, but only gets to own a reverse card trend to quadruple the views. I use those trends as clickbait on my videos to divert them and then cry myself to sleep due to the fact that they tend to get more views. That slowly watching as the same video like mine gets millions of views, realizing that YouTube tends to be shallow about what's good content, but I'm not petty enough to be angry at those people because I could tell that they too believe in the system and they really follow with trends because they can enjoy them anyway. Trends aren't always a bad thing. They can be evolved, diverted, or overall be pretty well made, and those creators should not be harassed for just participating in them and getting good money off of it. And now looking over my script, this is a lot more of me talking about trends aren't all that bad and the history of gacha rather than discussing why the community is not dying. Well, bottom line, the gacha community is not dying due to trends. Sure, it may be getting a little more cheap in terms of content, but hey, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Some old dude whose name I forgot to look up.